Inspired by sound.
Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. Have a relax and reverse while we go through a very strange track called Relax and Reverse, and also a bit of a strange question at the end of the video, for which you'll have to bear with me while I load up a different project, but I'll keep you occupied while I do that anyway. But first of all, let's have a breakdown of a strange track, which is this one playing right now. Relax and Reverse. I mean, you know, that's the whole point of the video, right? So this is an ambient track that I wrote, and the idea behind it was that I wanted to see what could be done with reversing an already reversed sound, because that always fascinated me. So what I did is I took a piano, I took the Native Instruments una corda, all linked in the description as per usual, of course. Does anyone actually ever read these? Reply in the comments if you do. You'll get a free cookie. Probably just an ad tracking one on your computer from watching the video, or something, but you'll get a free cookie nonetheless, I'm sure. But yeah, for example, yesterday's video was 3 kilobytes of text, lots and lots of links and stuff. It took me longer to do the typing than it did to make the video, but this one won't be nearly as complicated. So I took the Native Instruments una corda piano and I turned on the reverse option, of which it does have one, and then I added the Logic Space Designer plugin, which is a reverb plugin, and reversed it as well. I loaded up an Impulse, and I said, right, let's reverse the reverse and see what comes out, and all sorts of freaky things happened. So I played this piece that you're hearing at a much faster tempo, and played for about 5 or 6 minutes, and then I slowed it down to 55 beats a minute and got 10 minutes out of it. That's cheating in the business, but it works. I didn't want to play the entire day away, but I did want to do something kind of chilled out and relaxed, so there are only 4 elements in this. And what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to take away the effects. So we're going to sort of hear these one time through, as it were, and then I'm going to do something else afterwards, which you've already seen in the title because I'm curious about this whole thing, but we'll get to that. So here's what the piano does, really. Very slow metronome. The metronome really doesn't matter for a piece like this. There's no set timing anyway. I turned off the metronome when I was recording. We've got all these lovely, sliding, slippery textures. All kinds of stuff here. And if I just play, I'll wait for the thing to die away, and I will play sort of a modified G minor chord for you in a second. Hold on, we'll turn the mic down and we'll do this. You ready? Here we go. Isn't that nice? There's all sorts of things going on there. So if you play like a sort of great big piano run or something, it'll come back at you for ages. I stopped playing ages ago, just saying. There's just still movement going on, it's lovely. Really nice. So let's see what I did to achieve that, because this will be a once only thing. So what I need to do is I need to go into the mixer and I need to show you what effects I have got going on. I've got a delay from Replica XT. I'm going to bypass that delay and play again. So now we only have the reverb and the reverse. There we are. Put that back and do the same thing again. So the delay is a bit of a phaser on it, or is it a flanger? Phaser, I think. And that runs through the reverb and it goes on and on. So right, we'll bypass that delay. And then here's the Space Designer reverb plugin. And if I now play the una corda sound, that is all it does. No delay, no reverb. So that's the first one. The rest of them won't be as easy because I'm using the Complete Control Mark I keyboard, and you cannot bypass, only remove effects from this keyboard. So when we get down to tracks 2, 3, and 4, and I start removing these effects, that'll be it. That'll be the project done. But that's all right. It does keep it nice and short this time. Yesterday's video was 20 minutes. Let's see if we can do this in 19 and a half. All right. So the next one down. Let me make sure that this thing is not soloed anymore. How about that? Yeah, sounding okay. Absolutely no sound at all. I, by the way, just recently updated Logic. I'll hit the play on the keyboard then, if you're going to be difficult about it all. I mean, that's what it's there for, isn't it? Play on the keyboard. It's a very useful key. And it shows, because I found some voiceover issues with this version, and I'm not happy about them. There we go. I managed to unsolo it, but I had to go to the tracks to do that. That's a bit of a problem, isn't it, lads and lasses? Anyway, managed it in the end. Okay, so let's have a look at track 2. Because track 2 is something I called Gentle Box, and is very different from the other things. It is an Absinthe patch, and Absinthe is another Native Instruments product. So I've soloed that. I'm going to stop this now. There we are. Let me play a D to you. There we are. Lots of reverb, you see. Lots and lots of reverb going on there. It's quite nice. On this, I have Eventide Black Hole. And that's all I have. So when I remove this reverb plugin, which I'll now do, again, I'll play a D and remove it. Now the sound. That's all the sound is. So it kind of just plays random notes and does what it does. Play it to you. There we are. Again, this doesn't matter, the metronome, but it is doing what it does. See, it's not even in time, but the reverb was keeping it there and making it be all sorts of crazy and cool. So that is that track. Let's go down to the next one. See what you can do with just a handful of things. Right, so this one is very interesting because this uses the Soniccouture EP73 deconstructed thing, which is full of all sorts of crazy Rhodes noises, and the preset in particular matters because I'm using SFX filter kick drum. And the reason I'm using that is because I wanted something low-endy, because at the moment, well, when I was writing this, the only thing that was high-end was sort of the music box. Sorry, the only thing that was low-end was when I played a low G on the unicorda piano, but I wanted something that gave its kind of, you know, there's my favourite word again, gravitas. So I wanted something that would do that and help me out here. So I've modified the sound quite a bit. And I'll actually show you what I've done. When I've taken all the effects off, I'll load the original sound just by going into the browser and then hitting select on it, and you'll see what happens. So, first of all, the first effect on here is Native Instruments Guitar Rig 5 using acoustic shimmer. So I'm going to remove... Oh, actually, shall I remove the reverb first? I will actually remove the reverb first. Waves, R-Verb Stereo is the preset, is the plugin I'm using, and the preset's called Abyss. So I'll take away that reverb. There we go. So what I've done, as you hear, I've got kind of an underwatery type thing. And that's because Guitar Rig is doing that. When I hit it hard, it does that. And when I play medium hard, it kind of rings and does all sorts of freaky things. So when the track is playing, and I can play it to you from the WAV file in a minute anyway, so you'll understand. You see, the softer I play, that's what happens. So now, I'll go and remove Guitar Rig 5, and we're left with the raw sound. But it's actually, I've adjusted the reso, as it were. Well, that's what it calls itself. So it's kind of part of the filter, which is why it squeaks at all. But by playing very softly, which I did throughout the whole piece, we get this kind of underwater bubbly effect. It's really cool. So now, if I load the original patch, just by doing that, I wonder if you'll even hear that. Let me... That's the sound that I basically started with. So now that I've completely butchered that, of course, I can no longer play the track to you in its original form. And we're on to the very last track in here now, which uses... Geosonics. Geosonics is very cool. And this is like an ongoing drone. What sound did I use for this? It's called a chafalaya. I don't think I'm pronouncing that correctly, but then, as I said before many times, speech and if you can't spell it out, you can't really see what it's saying. It makes it a little difficult. And the effect I'm using on this is Native Instruments Flare, and I think I modified this sound by turning up or down certain elements, because there are layers in this. You've got like the natural, which is called NA on the Geosonics, and you've got P1 and P2, which I think are synth parts. So, what have I done with Flare? Well, I'm using a preset which was given to me by Carl Bussy of Native Instruments when I was over there in Germany in June of 2018. We had a great week, let me tell you. He was showing me how to use some of these effects, and Carl is one of the great people behind the Complete Control Accessibility itself. And I managed to spend a lot of time with Carl, and he's a great guy. And he gave me a preset called what's it called? Carl's Deep Dark Soul. And I thought it's very fitting to try and use that here when I'm going for sort of eerie ambient kind of effects. Now, I modified it slightly, but I can't remember what I did. But I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll just load it, and then I'll remove it. So the default Deep Dark Soul sounds like that. Oh, I know, I had to tune it. So if you hear it's a semitone down, some of you might not notice that, but it's in F sharp and the piece is in G, so I would have had to tune very slightly this sound. So it's kind of an ongoing, it sounds like almost a ship engine or something bizarre like that, but it's in the wrong key for the piece, so I tuned it. That's what I had to do. Maybe did a few other things as well. Hard to know when all you do is turning knobs and not getting any value readouts. But I'll remove this. There we go. So here's the raw Geosonic sound now. Well, I say raw, of course, I'll reload the patch itself. You can hear what it's supposed to sound like in a minute. It's very cool, very peaceful. And the moving it's doing actually added to the sense of sort of movement and sleepiness, and with the underwater from the previous sound going on, I thought it was rather a cool effect, and it all came together to give me some kind of good energy. I'd love to know what you guys all think of this. So that is the Geosonics. I'm going to now press select and load the preset itself from scratch and see what it actually sounds like, because I don't remember. Right, we're playing the piece. This is what it originally sounded like pre my modifications. So it's a lot bigger, a lot fuller, but with only 4 tracks I managed to make something I think that's quite filling in itself. So that meant that everything that was perhaps big and loud, I had to step back a little, you know? So if that makes sense. So yeah, that's very different from the original. It's slightly pitched differently. There's a lot more movement or something going on. A lot more low end, yeah. But I think once I'd added the effects, I wasn't happy with the way the thing sounded. But that's the joy of being able to change this stuff on the fly, you know? So being able to adjust the values and do whatever else needs doing is phenomenal, and I love Complete Control for that. But because I'm using an old keyboard, I can't just bypass effects and things. I need to get myself another Mark II. Maybe if I get enough Patreon money together, I can do that in a couple of months' time. The Mark I is on its way out and is not being supported as such. Lots of things, or well, not lots of things, a few functions are not easy to implement because of the lack of buttons, things like that. So, oh, one thing I did not do as well is I'm going to go to track 1 and I'm going to load the normal unicorder patch so that you can hear what it sounds like when it's just played raw and without the reverse. Not without the reverb, we already took away the reverb. So now if I play this track from the beginning, this without any modifications, very, very dry, very raw, unfiltered, uncut. It's a whole different piece, isn't it? Just making sure that nothing is soloed. Oh yeah, everything's playing as it should. It's very different than when we started. Right, so now I'm going to swap this piece out for a different version of this piece, and I'm going to ask you all a question, because I have questions, and I think you'll understand why I have questions in a minute. So while we wait for this to load, open recent. Yeah, there we go. Load that. I don't want to save it. I just want to load the new one. Playing from the original WAV file now so you can compare the difference. And it is very different, isn't it? My question to you is, what on earth is 8D all about? This new kind of wave of madness on YouTube I've come across a little bit, and I was told about it by Patrick, a friend of mine, and he said that I should do something with it. Now, I don't know exactly how they're doing what they're doing, so I cheated, and I'm about to explain how I cheated in a second. This project is just loading itself up, and it's now loaded. Awesome. So what I have in front of me is the same piece that we've already discussed, with a difference. Let me see. I need to turn this up, and I also need to make sure that the audio track, oh there we go, is set to playback when I move the mod wheel in a moment. Right. So here is Relax and Reverse through a plugin called the Sennheiser Ambient Orbit plugin. Now, there's a reason for this. Here is the reason. Are you listening on headphones or some kind of speakers? Because if you're listening with a mono phone or something, you will not get the value of this. You hear that? I'm going to now move my mod wheel very slowly. I've brought the piece around behind you, to the right of you, in front of you, down the left side of your body, and back behind you. What is all that about? I hear you ask. Well, this is supposed to be something to do with this whole 8D thing. I must confess, I don't think I quite get it, and I wonder if anyone else does. I feel a bit mystified as to what the point of it is, apart from, is it something to do with ASMR? Is that what they call it? But it baffled me, I'm not gonna lie, and I wondered if I was the only one. Yeah, call myself confused, I think. So, that is the whole point, really. I wanted to ask you if any of you knew what it was all about, and if you did, what it is. I'll do it again, look. Might give some of you motion sickness, so I won't do it too much, but I am baffled by this whole supposed 8D craze. Because, yeah, I mean, it sounds kind of interesting, but what's the use? If anyone can tell me what the use is, I would certainly be glad to hear it. And is it something I should investigate and make music using? Because all I need to do is just run slow pieces like this through that and maybe automate these changes, so that I don't have to sit here and do this all day. And for those who cannot see, I'm just simply sliding my finger up and down the mod wheel touch strip. If you had a physical mod wheel, you would be turning it backward and forward. All I did to do this was to tie the mod wheel to the parameter that I wanted to adjust using Logic's MIDI modifier. So the modifier is sending out 0 to 127 or whatever it's sending out, and the plugin that it's tied to is the Ambient Orbit plugin, and it's receiving those values on the azimuth parameter, which is moving the sound in virtual space around you. I mean, that's all there is to it. And for some reason, I couldn't seem to do that when it was during playback, my voice. Now I can do it with my voice as well, so I can move my voice around your head in virtual space. For what that's worth. I don't know if it's worth anything, or whether it's worth everything. But if it is worth something, I certainly like to know about it, and I'd like to ask your opinion on this whole deal. And literally that's it. So, if you don't mind, like, subscribe, and share. And I suppose I shall see you, as I always say, on the flip side. Thanks for listening, and just gonna wander over here for a bit. Maybe have a bit of a play, or shut the door, or get something to eat, or something. I don't know. There's lots to do today. it's Friday, for what that's worth. So, yeah, thanks for listening to Inspired by Sound. I'm just going to fade away now and not come back. That's it, we're done.